I think the point where I really got worried was when officially troops started coming into the territory of Ukraine under this special military operation. I was actually getting some reports from various borders, and also I wanted to make a decision on which border would be the best to move through. A lot of military presence, trying to defend the city. You know, there was a really showdown in Kiev anyway, like serious one.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today I'm speaking to Ediga. Ediga is currently in Lithuania, but his journey doesn't start there. He had to leave Ukraine about a year ago after the war started. Now, this conversation will be very different from some of the ones we've had in the past because most of the people we've spoken to, as you would expect, most people when moving abroad from, say, Nigeria to the West, the aim is to go typically for greener pastures or to find opportunities. And the last thing you're preparing for is that you'll need to leave a country because of war. So I want to say a huge thank you to Ediga for being able to share his experience with us. So thank you very much, Ediga, for joining us. I'll I'll go straight into it. The date that I think is officially quoted for Russia's invasion of Ukraine is the 24th of February, 2022. So I just want to ask, in the days leading up to this 24th, because it was already in the news, there were already concerns about Russia's soldiers and their security forces just hovering around the Ukraine border. So in the dates before this, what was the atmosphere like? And from you personally as well, what are you thinking in the days leading up to this 24th? Are you already thinking, if this starts, I need to go, I need to make a move, I need to go here? Are you already thinking, if I go here, how do I get a place to stay? How do I get food to eat? Are people already running to banks to withdraw their cash? Just give me like a picture of what the feeling is like around where you are.
Okay. Thank you, Martin, again. So basically, yeah, you quoted the right date for the so-called invasion of Ukraine. Um, by Russia. But days before then, actually, as you rightly said, there were already like speculations. The US, the UK, and France, if I'm not mistaken, already advised their citizens to leave Ukraine. So that was anyway. Before then, it was the whole Russian troops around the borders, and then after the second escalation was that tension. Anyway, was when US, the UK, and I think Canada, Australia as well. Some other countries followed suit after that to advise their citizens to leave the territory of Ukraine based on threat of a possible invasion and all. Yeah, there was already tension. So those tensions spiked a lot of reactions, different reactions from different places. There were some people that thought it was probably not going to happen. Others tried to start making, plans in their head as to what to do when that happens, and people didn't really understand what an invasion would look like anyway. Some people were thinking probably it was just gonna be fights on the street or something, but having a picture of, even knowing that it will happen, having a picture of how it would happen and when was an issue.
Mm.
A lot of people's minds, but eventually there were lots of discussions. I would say 90% of discussions around people then were that, and then again after the move to evacuate citizens of US and the UK and all. A lot of other businesses and some people actually started withdrawing their money, actually moving their money. So I think I had a report that in a day, a certain amount of money was moved out of Ukraine, and I think it spiked concerns from the government. So the government were trying to fight the whole idea of, okay, no, it's not going to happen. It's hurting our economy and all those stuff. So it was really a tussle, even with the government in Kiev and all, because they were trying to see how they could control that information. But it was eminent. I don't know if that move by their government kind of misled some people that would have thought to have moved on time and all, because after the whole thing, it was obvious that they too were aware of that, because it seems that it was not something that it was something that they were discussing closed doors, I guess, and they knew, their security forces knew that something like that could happen. Very possible. So anyway, yeah, that's basically what it looked like before the so-called invasion.
For you, though, specifically, what were you doing in the days leading up to the 24th? What were you thinking? Are you starting to pack up your bags? Are you starting to think, if this starts, I need to make my way towards this border? Are you thinking, actually, I need to try and find a way to fly back to Nigeria? What are you thinking for yourself in the days leading up to this?
Mm-hmm. Anyways, for me, I think I was having just mixed feelings at first, because, yeah, I was following up developments. I think the point where I really got worried was when officially troops started coming into the territory of Ukraine under this special military operation. I'll say so-called special military operation, because I don't want right now. So, I think Russia announced that, because, since 2014, they didn't, because they actually, Donbass, it's officially Ukraine territory. So they were silently putting soldiers to defend there, because the Ukrainian soldiers were trying to uh, like take over there military wise, you get, and then there was a resistance over there. So it's a kind of became like a civil war going on over there from 2014. So the thing was, it took them that long for them to recognize that place as an autonomous republic, because since 2014, they called them Lugansk. There were two regions, made big regions. I think Lugansk, how does it? It's like a republic. They declared the republic self. You
I
get
remember that. I remember that two specific regions that were now declared as almost like separate nations.
Yes, and they self-declared themselves. But they were just getting some kind of support from Russia on the low, you get. But
yeah,
officially, Russia did not come out to recognize them. So where I got worried was when there was that official proclaiming that, okay, yes, now we recognize them. So that means the government will put in resources officially to. So that was where it got really really concerning for me. And
so what was your next move at this point?
It was like, I tried to hint some people about it, because I needed. I was opportune. I'm opportune to be working close to my embassy as at then. So I tried to hint some people to probably let's get kind of like a way of alerting our own, because India had already also done theirs earlier to that day. That I was thinking, oh, we should do the same and tell people to move, because then at least if you could move anytime, So, but still doesn't mean that me myself I could move, But
yeah.
just hoping that it wouldn't get to that point, because I think our position was more of, okay, it might not escalate to that point. We were expecting that there could be a truce that would be reached, or something, an agreement or sort that would be reached before anything could escalate. So, because we knew that whatever would happen could spring up to a world war anyway, because because of the nature of what it was.
Yeah.
The countries that were involved in the whole thing. So yeah, but I didn't really have any thinking of, okay, I'm moving to this border. But I had some people talking about the whole discussion, like, oh yeah, the borders will be open, we'll just rush past through, we'll just and go to Germany, They were like already like thoughts, because obviously, yeah, you have to rush to the west, because you can't be running to the east anyway. So
Yeah.
everybody's the people I had the discussion was more, okay, yeah, because obvious that's where you're going to the east, Poland. From Poland, most people were eyeing Poland. I think Poland is the closest to most of the people in Kiev,
I
and
see.
because the straight train from Kiev to Poland,
I
to
see.
the border of Poland anyway, then you probably take a train to Poland again. So most
Okay.
people, I think that's why the Poland border was kind of choked, because that kind of first choice demand. Then the other smaller borders were, anyway, there was other borders like Moldova, Slovenia also, that those ones were not, yeah, I think they were not EU. So is it Moldova also? I can't remember. So if you get there, you probably get stuck. You probably don't visa to get into the territory of Schengen. So it was, all the Schengen borders were better for people to pass through, because at least they could get to Germany or somewhere else, Netherlands and all those places.
Okay. So when did you decide, now I have to move?
I think I was around, I think, for about 3 days after, like,
After the 24th.
yeah, about 4 days, I guess. I can't remember.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah. On one of the days anyway, I was in the bunker, because there are bunkers around each area in Kiev. So, you know,
Okay.
witnessed some of the foot soldiers coming close to the center and all those kind of stuff. But anyway, that one was just one day before they got repelled and all. So there was a lot of restricted movement and all that period, and a lot of military presence trying to defend the city and all. But there was a really showdown in Kiev anyway, like serious one, from taking over some of the bases, and some like bombings.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, now that you're saying it, I think I'm starting to recollect that in the early days of this, it was in the news that they were approaching Kiev. Now it looks like, thankfully, they were able to repel them and push them backwards towards the east, effectively. But now that I think about it, yeah, it looks like they made huge progress on Kiev very quickly, like
Yeah,
you mentioned earlier. But at this point, when this has happened now, and hopefully with them having repelled the Russian forces a little bit, so they pushed them back east a little bit. How did you get from where you were in Kiev to the border? Which border did you look to go to?
okay, yeah, at the point, there were there were some some people around me. Then so I was I was actually getting some reports from various borders, and also I wanted to make a decision on which border would be the best to move through. I had an option of going together with Nigerian, because again, another thing that made me delay is that I couldn't leave because of I was with the Nigerian embassy, so I wanted to know which plan we had to move, and then the ambassador couldn't go yet. He wanted to stay back for a while. So but um, it was a personal decision to move. I had the option of moving with the Nigerian embassy, by car, but car again, I thought of it would be a very long journey. A train is faster. It's faster because there were some routes that would be blocked, and also it's a longer journey by road, because some of the roads that were leading out of Kiev already were destroyed, more
Oh
tanks.
wow.
Some bridges were even blown up.
So if you went by road, how long would it have taken you to get to? So which
I
first of all, which border were you targeting? Was it Hungary border?
No, it took them the ones that, like the Hungary border anyway, that it took them, I think, so it took some people about more than a day, I think, so of driving us. I can't remember, but by train too it's quite lengthy, because for me, I didn't really getting to the train station. Then it was quite expensive even getting a cab to the train station first. So you get to the train station, it's all packed, people wait trains and all that stuff. So
It must have been commotion in those train stations.
yeah. Things going on, a lot of things going on, but not like, yeah, there were a lot of things going on, but it was a bit more okay. Yeah, we're going to find a way out. We are at the train station already, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But just that, it's more. The major thing was like, yeah, we are here because trains are coming. There are trains coming and coming. So
So
eventually.
you caught a train going where?
Yeah, anyway, I was advised to just get any train going to the east. So I think I took a smaller one to join up with another one at the front or something like that. So it was a wiser decision, because getting the main trains was at first was, so there was like smaller trains that were going to like smaller cities. So you just try to locate that to get to one small city that will
So
wait for.
the first goal is to leave Kiev to start with. Take
Yeah,
the train, find yourself to a smaller city, and then continue from there.
from there. Yeah, that was how it was.
Okay. And
So
so what was your next hop at that point? Where did you go? And then from there, where did you
no,
go next?
if Lviv was the target,
Lviv.
because that's
Okay.
close to Poland. So from
Ah,
there,
okay.
I think it's just, I think should be like an hour journey to the border from there. So I guess, yeah, either Poland border, or there's also a border from there, Hungary, I guess. Yeah. So
Okay.
that
So
was. So I decided over there where, and then they were like buses already packed, kind of, but the prices were high. So just tried to negotiate a good price with one. The guy was hesitant for Poland, because he said the border was packed and all that. There was a huge traffic for, I think, almost 50 kilometers traffic or something like that. He told me. Yeah. So
wow.
what we did was we tried to Google other other borders close by.
Mm.
And then a friend of mine, I think he had a friend that passed through a border that was less packed. And then we checked how far it was from that point, and then told the driver, okay, there's a border close by. That's not so packed, no, no, and eventually was the Hungary one.
Gotcha.
Uh,
And how are you managing with food at this time through these journeys? What's going on with food and
no,
just
like
standard upkeep?
for food and all that stuff. I think there were volunteers that were giving food and water and all those stuff at mostly every point when you get out of Kiev, especially from Lviv. That point because Lviv was not really under attack.
Yeah.
Even till
Wow.
hunger before you leave the border, you meet a group of volunteers that would fruits, tea, biscuits, light
Mm.
stuff. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you get to the Hungary border. What happens next?
Yeah, they kind of just get your passport and get you stamped in, you know. From there, I think they kept us to get a card that would take you to where you get registered. So that's how it is. From there, the registration points. It was another lengthy process, but eventually we got it done. Then you are free to like move. So the next thing is to, because I think the immigration facility it was in this is in one city close to the border. So from there you can actually get a train to Budapest.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long were you in Hungary for?
I think I was in Hungary for like 3 weeks, I guess.
At this point, did you already know at the back of your mind, I'm trying to get to Lithuania? Or at this point, I'm in Hungary at the moment, and then you're listening and maybe having conversations with the Nigerian embassy on where to go and station yourselves? Did you already know that you're trying to get to Lithuania?
No, no, no. Lithuania was because of work, for me, really. It's not like I had to choose where I want to be. I
Yeah.
have to my work is stationed, you know. So but as at then there was no decision on what was good because first we were like going to be be at convene in Hungary. Everyone convenes in Hungary. We kind of regroup and
Okay.
then necessary arrangements because before moving to and because the Nigerian embassy in Ukraine handles about 5 other countries. So there was the option of any of those countries where you could actually, because it's a concurrent embassy, but you can reside in one of the countries that you are in. But so that's the advantage that we
I
had.
see. How
It's
many
not like
countries did you say?
about five. Uh,
Okay.
that was Ukraine, Moldova, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, and Georgia. So
Okay.
any of those countries we could decide to be resident. So,
I see.
but Hungary was just more like an escape route. Okay, then we decide. So before we decide. For me, I just decided. Okay, yeah, like it was a bit stressful. So let me just get some rest in
Mm.
Nigeria from this whole because everything was very if you finally pass, there are some people that would later call you and be like, okay, where are you? Okay, we are coming. It was a lot of war kind of feeling and
Yeah.
escape things and all so I just decided to go to Nigeria to clear my head, stay away from the whole war scene and everything.
Okay. Oh, no,
Till
thank God you were able to go back. Oh, thank God you were able to make that move.
yeah, till when we decide on what to do. And again, there were like evacuation plans anyway. The flights were coming in to Hungary. Uh, I think Air Peace came to Hungary also. Um, I think it was Air Peace and one other airline or so. But there were evacuation. There was evacuation from Hungary. There was evacuation from Poland. There was evacuation from, I think, I don't know whether they did from Moldova or Slovenia or one of those countries. I don't know. But there were ongoing stuff like that, yeah.
And where were you staying in Hungary? Who arranged this accommodation? Was everybody fending for themselves at this point?
Yeah, Hungary is, I think Hungary, they're not so much like other EU countries that had funding for some of these things. So basically, they just give you and let you go into the town and try to find a way. But
Wow.
there were volunteers from the train station that will in Budapest that will give you like students accommodation, I think, stuff like that. So they'll take you to hostels and all. So,
Hmm.
but I actually paid for my accommodation uh, first few days. It was really getting expensive. That's why I decided not to stay.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine to be incurring those types of charges without planning for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
But
can be very difficult.
other people had the latitude to like move further to Europe, like Germany and all those places where there were better arrangements for accommodation and also. But for me, it was I had to be around, so I just took a permission to go to Nigeria. It was better for me to spend my money there and
Yeah. No,
yeah.
that makes sense. And so you were in Nigeria, you went back. Going back, where were you heading back to? Straight back to Hungary, or at this point was the decision made to go to Lithuania and then you went there straight?
The decision was already made to go to Lithuania, so I just applied for a new visa and already.
Okay. And where is all your luggage while you're doing all this stuff?
No, just took a bag. My remaining luggage was in Ukraine,
Wow.
so you have to just go with your stuff the ones you.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay. So now in Lithuania, how have you found it so far? How was settling down there? How was finding again basic things like accommodation, access to money or a bank account? How have you managed all these things?
Yeah, Lithuania is it's different, it's way lot different from Ukraine. Um, it's a small country, yeah. So settling down was I would say it's kind of challenging anyway, but because the cost of accommodation is it's higher than in Ukraine, higher than in Ukraine. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Wow.
so yeah. And then that's one. Secondly, even getting accommodation at that point because we just came in, we didn't even have an office yet, I know. So um but already, their ministries already recognized us anyway. But I think the population really, when you tell them, it is because they always want to know where you're working, and you tell them where you work, and then they be like, they feel like, no, they're not aware of this. It's so small country that they're almost aware of everything. It's
I
just like
see. I see.
it's just like they say, okay, where do you work? You work in the Nigerian embassy. No, there's no embassy. There's no expecting you. And because of the skin color, it was really hard to get accommodate.
Mm,
It was. It was a bit later we came to understand how the country works, and everyone got the accommodation, after some time. But all in all, it's a small, quiet country, um, and yeah, it's not as big as Ukraine, not as diverse as Ukraine. So it's a different whole thing together than than how Ukraine used to be. So
yeah.
it's just understanding how the country works and trying to adapt to it. That's just the whole thing, yeah. And the population of Nigerians are not that much like that as well.
I see. That was one of the questions I was going to ask to find out whether or not that might have helped with the accommodation, but maybe that network is not as strong there. So, but I would have thought that the Nigerian embassy, even though they didn't have a presence there officially before, I would have thought maybe there were channels they could use to make that a bit easier. Was that not the case?
No, there was not. The decision. The only way is just to let the authorities know that this is what we're facing. I think that kind of helped. I don't know, probably, but eventually it was not. It wasn't that hard again.
Wow. Okay. I mean, we've tried to compress it into a small conversation, but I know that there's so many intricacies of a situation like this. Some of them I can't even begin to wrap my head around. But now in Lithuania for close to a year, what's next? Are you looking like you're in Lithuania for the foreseeable future until this all dies down? Or are there alternative options that the embassy is making for themselves? And then maybe also you personally, what's your own plan? Will you stay there as long as you're stationed there, or are there plans to move elsewhere or back to Nigeria?
Oh, okay. Um, I can only speak for myself right now. Yeah. So, uh, like, for me, we're still, so far as I've not gotten any um, bigger bigger opportunities somewhere else. For now, I'm still around
Okay.
in Luton for some time, but once there once I know personally, if I see a better opportunity somewhere else, yeah, I'm actually ready for it. But for now, I'm staying put.
Fair
I
enough.
don't,
Fair enough.
yeah, but at least I'm staying put.
Wow. That must have been a very stressful period, Ediga. I can't even begin to imagine. I know when
Yeah,
I first spoke to you, though, that was when you, I think, had just gotten into Hungary. So, yeah, we couldn't talk much at the time, but you were able to just give me a brief to say how you were in Hungary, so you're out of Ukraine. And I think I just used that one to at least just calm down, at least realize that you were out of the zone. So, but it's been good to hear some of the details of what really happened there. And to start with, glad that you're safe. I'm glad you're in a place where you have somewhere to stay, have somewhere to live, have work to do as well. And hopefully the right opportunity comes for you to do what you want to do next.
amen.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for speaking to us. Though it's been good hearing your input, and yeah, I suspect I'll catch up with you again maybe in nobody knows how long this will last for, but maybe when things have calmed down, I'll probably find time to speak to you and find out what your decision was, whether or not you chose to return to Ukraine or again continued to pursue opportunities elsewhere. But in the meantime, no, I just want to say a huge thank you for speaking to us.
And thank you too, and thank you for having me.